What's up? I'm B, and whether you are watching this on YouTube or you are listening to the podcast, I hope you are having an amazing day. Today, we are here for a quick recap video going over Paul and Morgan's most recent live stream titled Bittersweet. This was streamed on September 4th, and right now it has just under 9,000 views. Now, chances are, if you clicked on this video, you know who I am, you know who Paul and Morgan are. We're all pretty well acquainted, and so there's not a ton of intro that I need to do, so let's just go ahead and do Win for the Week, and then we will get into the recap. If you are new around here, a Win for the Week is just where you share something positive that happened to you over the past week that you would consider a win, big or small, whatever it may be. If it made you laugh, if it made you feel grateful, if it brought you joy. If you consider it a win, I want to hear about it and celebrate with you. If you are watching this on YouTube, you can leave it in the comment section down below. And if you are listening to the podcast on Spotify, you can leave it in the comment section for this episode. My win for the week is finally being able to try out this eyebrow and eyelash dye that I got off of Amazon. I got it a few weeks ago just because it caught my eye and I was interested in trying it, and I haven't had a chance to actually apply it. And so today I finally took the time to do that. It's supposed to develop over the next 24 hours, I guess. I don't know, you're not supposed to get your face wet, you're not supposed to wear any makeup for 24 hours, so coming at you barefaced right now, but yeah, it's supposed to develop over the next day, last for about 4 weeks, so we'll see. It might end up being part of my regular routine, but for now, so far so good. So that is my win, and I cannot wait to hear yours and celebrate with you. Now let's get into this live stream. Paul and Morgan have pretty much taken the summer off. Morgan was pregnant. She now has had her son, but she was pregnant due July 1st, and so the last pre-recorded video that they did prior to taking this break was the 24 Hours With episode that they did with Tim from the New Evangelicals, and that was posted on May 24th. Then they did a live stream on June 10th, and then that was pretty much it. They took some time off. Morgan did go into labor. They had their second son, Judah. I want to send a huge congratulations to Paul and Morgan on the birth of their second son. We'll get into more of Morgan's birth story because she does talk about it in the live stream, but I do just want to say, congratulations. I am so happy for you. I'm wishing you guys the best. I follow Paul and Morgan on Instagram, and so I know that the transition from just having Luca to having two little ones has not been the easiest for her, so I am just wishing her well. And Morgan's first experience giving birth, from what she has shared, I don't want to speak on somebody else's experience because I don't know them personally, but from what she shared and what we know of it, was seemingly very, very scary. She had to have an emergency C-section. A lot of things went wrong. She did try to have a home birth and ended up, like I said, having to go in for an emergency C-section, so just not how she planned at all, and I am sure incredibly scary. And so the thought of having that traumatic experience and then being unexpectedly pregnant again, and maybe not necessarily ready, maybe she hasn't worked through all of those things, all of the emotions that she has associated with giving birth and motherhood, and the thought of having to give birth again, I'm sure, was just very daunting. And from what we know about this second experience, it was significantly better, a lot smoother. She was able to have an unmedicated birth in the hospital, and from what we know, things went so much better. And so that's incredible, and I'm very, very happy to hear that that was their experience this time. So anyway, they took some time off for the end of Morgan's pregnancy, giving birth, getting adjusted to being now a family of 4, and on July 25th, they returned with their 24 Hours With episode that they did with Ruslan. I have not watched that episode. I did not cover it on my channel, and at this point, I'm not planning to. I will probably end up watching it at some point, just so I know, what was in it, what they talked about, and just kind of having that knowledge, because I do cover Paul and Morgan on my channel. But at this time, I haven't seen it, and it didn't seem like there was a ton of interest in that episode when it came out in general. I looked at the comment section, and it seemed that there were a lot of positive comments from Paul and Morgan's viewers, but I don't know that it was something that would have attracted people who didn't already like Paul and Morgan. You know, I think they reached a wider audience when they did the episode with Josh Benson from It's Church Chat and the one that they did with Tim from the New Evangelicals. Those are ones that I remember people being excited about, and it could just be like the parts of the internet that I hang out on, because I do like lurk on the Fundy Snark Uncensored subreddit, and so I think people are going to be more excited to see Paul and Morgan do these episodes with people who aren't necessarily aligned with them on a lot of beliefs. They want to see people who have different beliefs than Paul and Morgan be included in this. So that makes sense. But, you know, just in general, from what I saw, positive comments in the comment section, but not a ton of like excitement for the video outside of that. And plus, I think this one was also done with just Paul. I don't think Morgan went and participated in it. I did just kind of go scrub through the video just to see if she was there, and I didn't catch any frames of her, so I think it was just Paul who went. So anyway, they posted that video on July 25th, and since then, nothing else has been posted. No other lives have been done until September 4th. Like I said earlier, this live was called Bittersweet, and here's a recap of what they talked about. So this live stream was about an hour and 6 minutes, and for the first like 35-ish minutes, Morgan is sharing her birth story. They start out the live, you know, like kind of rough, kind of rusty. It's been a long time since they've done it, and they do let us know that Morgan is feeling quite hormonal because she is on her period. So, you know, she's like, I'm hormonal now because I'm back on the cycles, and they whisper something, like Paul whispers something in Morgan's ear. I don't think it's related to that. He says it's related to what they talk about later. I don't know what he said, but it takes them a few minutes to kind of like get ready to go, and then they're finally like on track, and Morgan starts sharing her story. I'm not going to give all the details, the timeline of everything, like the breakdown. Morgan does start the story like a few days before she actually goes to the hospital to give birth because she's having contractions and laboring at home. And like she goes into all of the details because it is her birth story. And so I think if you want to know all the details, if you want to hear how everything went, definitely go check it out. Like go watch her video and hear Morgan's story from herself. But like the way that she was telling it seemed very normal to me. Like everything she said were details that I would like expect somebody to include if they are a content creator sharing their birth story on YouTube. But Paul has a bit of a different opinion.
And she gets here, and we all are like sitting around on the couch.
You're giving a lot of details,
babe.
Okay, they like this though.
Yes.
Okay.
This is a birth story.
So they like the really small details.
Yes.
Continue.
You guys tell me.
No, this is good. This is good. I mean, you guys tell us.
Listen, I've had literally hundreds of people on Instagram be like, we need all the details.
No, this is good then. This is really good. I'm going to settle in.
Yeah, Paul's like, let's not drag this video on too long. I'm like, buddy, I'm telling a birth story. It's going on forever.
Okay, no, we got other stuff as well. I'm just saying, but this is really, so I'm going to settle in.
Key.
No, look, I'm going to settle in here.
This is what the people have waited for.
I can put my head back on this pillow, but keep going though. No, this is good.
Everyone's saying tell all.
I want it all, baby. I want it
Paul,
all. So,
we like it.
yes, very good. All right, continue.
So, anywho. So annoying.
Go. Seriously. I really got up super early. Not that early, but.
Babe.
Okay. My apologies.
This would go a lot faster if you stopped interrupting me. So zip your pie hole.
Continue. No more from me.
She gets here, and basically, you guys, we all lay on the couch. We all fall asleep on the couch.
All three.
Thank goodness for a big couch.
So, of course, Paul has to make a comment, but then he does let her continue with her detailed story. And like I said, this experience overall was a lot more positive for Morgan. It was a lot safer. It was not as traumatic. Like, obviously, having a baby is a very daunting thing to do. You're very vulnerable. Like, it's a really big thing to take on. I say as I'm 36 weeks pregnant, being like, I'm going to have to do that soon. But, you know, so she tells her story. And like I said, overall, everything went well, everything went smoothly. She does say that it was a redemptive experience, and so that's great. However, something that I noticed while Morgan was telling her story is that even though she said, like, overall it was a positive experience, it was a redeeming experience, like, she's very grateful that she got to have an unmedicated vaginal birth, especially after her emergency C-section that she had with Luca. It seemed like there were just a lot of things that she was picking out in the story that were that she had to point out and be negative about. And I don't want to tell anybody how to feel about anything that they've personally experienced, but I just kind of feel like some of the things that she complained about, yeah, they might have been annoying, and like maybe that's something that I would have been like frustrated about internally, or like complained to like my friends about or my husband about, but to make it a part of her birth story that she's sharing on the internet, it's just like, really? Like that's what you felt the need to include? And I don't know if this is like out of pocket or out of line, but I think I think we tend to take like good health for granted, and it's so easy for things to go wrong. It's so easy for things in medical situations to go south so quickly. And so to complain about some of the things that Morgan complained about, I'm like, you are literally lucky to be alive. Like, you know, you are lucky to be alive, especially after your experience with giving birth to Luca and everything that went wrong there, and how scary that was, and how, according to Paul, like the medical team told him at one point, like, if you're religious, now's the time to start praying. And like I said, I get being internally frustrated by a lot of these things or complaining to people in your real life, but just like in the grand scheme of things, when you're telling your birth story to your audience, are these the things that you want them to remember? Like, is this what you want them to focus on? And I'm sure you're like, what details are you talking about? Like, what complaints, what parts of the story? This is very annoying that you're not telling us what parts you're talking about. Give you some examples. So they were planning on giving birth at a hospital. Like, that was part of their plan because of what happened with Morgan's experience giving birth to their first child. So they were planning to give birth at a hospital. They did not know where the labor and delivery entrance was at their hospital. They somehow found it. Morgan's like, I have no idea how you found it. They had to like get directions to go over there, and they figured it out. And then Morgan says that they had to fill out paperwork, which was the dumbest thing in the world, but luckily she filled most of it out beforehand and brought it with her. Now, everybody preps differently. Like, everybody does things in their own way. They have their own approach to things. Respect it, for sure. Judah was born on his due date. And so, like, I get it if he, like, was early and unexpected and you were just, like, you hadn't done the things that you wanted to do to prepare to go into labor with Judah. But he was born on his due date. And so for me, I feel like if you know that you are planning on giving birth in a hospital, it might be helpful to figure out like where you need to go a few weeks before your due date and fill out the paperwork that you need to fill out before your due date. Like, just have it ready. I don't know. I'm not in bed with like big hospital, but for me, again, as like somebody who is going to be giving birth soon, I have been asked no less than 10 times if I've filled out all of my registration paperwork for the hospital. I don't know what every hospital is like. I don't know what the hospital was like that Paul and Morgan went to, but I would assume that they probably had an option to pre-register. I would assume that it like this opportunity was available to them because Morgan had the paperwork that she filled out before they went in to have the baby, that she could have filled that all out and gotten it submitted, or at least just like had it completely filled out and brought it with her when she went into labor, so that way she didn't have to fill out that paperwork while she was in labor. And it's just, it's not the dumbest thing in the world that you had to fill that out, Morgan. They need to know who you are. They need to know if you have allergies. They need to know your emergency contact. It's not like you're like being brought in an ambulance to an emergency room and being admitted right away and like having, you know, a life-threatening injury or something where they just need to start working on you ASAP. You were in labor and like you knew you were going to go into labor at some point. You were going to have to go get checked in, get admitted. Like, this is something that you could have prepared for, and then you wouldn't have had to do it while you were in labor. Anyway, Morgan does get admitted. She gets taken into a delivery room, and she's, you know, laboring there. Her mom is there. Paul is there. She's moving around. She's laboring on the toilet. She does not want to be on the bed on her back. Like, she wants to be able to like move around freely, doesn't want to be hooked up to any IVs or anything like that. And at one point, the staff take her from the toilet to the bed, and she's like, I don't want to be on my back, like I don't want to be here. And so they get her on all fours, and she's continuing to labor. And then I guess at some point, the midwife went over to Morgan's mom and was like, she's not gonna like this, but I'm getting that baby out. And when Morgan shares this, she's upset because she says that she was not in a rush. And so she didn't understand why the midwife would say that, or why they would be like pushing her to get the baby out. Like, she just wants to take her time. And my first thought was like, if your like birthing team is not even in a rush, but just like, all right, it's time for this baby to come. If they're making that decision that they're going to try and like get things moving, I would assume it's for a good reason. I would assume that the people who are there, who are supporting me, who are helping me, like who do this as their job, they know better than I do. And so if they think that like we need to get things moving along, it's probably for a good reason. And when I was looking through the comments on this live stream, somebody did address that. Morgan in her story says that when her water broke, the baby passed some meconium. I don't know if I'm saying that right. I've only ever read that word, but the baby passed meconium. And this person commented like, hey, that can actually be dangerous for the baby. Like, that does pose a risk. And so I would bet that that's why your midwife was like, okay, she's not going to like it, but I'm getting this baby out. So Morgan does say that they gave her antibiotics because of that. And then we also have this comment saying that like that would make sense as to why they would want to speed things up a little bit just for the safety of the baby. I don't know. I'm not a doctor, but I saw that comment and I was like, oh, that makes sense. Something else that I just like took note of while Morgan was telling the story is that she did tear, and so she needed stitches. And like, she was complaining about getting the stitches.
But they took him, and Paul went with them for them to get him checked out. It was in the same room, but it's just over in the corner. And they brought him back, and he was great. And I got to hold him for the literal hour that they were stitching me up. That was so frustrating. Like, that whole golden hour that they talk about, yeah, that did not exist for me. I did not have the golden hour because I was being stitched up during my entire golden hour.
Ooh.
And again, it's like, I get it. That's not what you wanted. That's not what you envisioned. You were imagining like just this beautiful, peaceful experience after giving birth. But like, God forbid that your medical team take care of you. You know, heaven forbid that they stitch you up after you have torn while giving birth. Like, you know, and again, maybe in a few weeks I'm going to come back and I'm going to be like, I take back everything I said. You know, Morgan was completely right. Like, she presented everything in a way that I completely understand and I align with. I don't know. Maybe I will. Maybe my thought process is going to change after giving birth. But it's just like, I'm sorry that you did not have this peaceful golden hour experience of just like pure bliss. I'm sure that would have been really, really nice to have, but giving birth is like a medical event. It is not some peaceful, beautiful thing that we can all just go down into a stream and do. There are some people who do that. For some people, that's their experience, and they have outdoor births. They birth babies in the car in 5 minutes and things are like super smooth sailing and it's peaceful afterwards and everything's great. And that's what some people do experience. But in general, this is a very serious medical event, and we can do whatever we can do to try and make it as peaceful and smooth as we possibly can. But I've watched enough people's birth stories to know, like, you just never know what's going to happen. And so for a lot of people, their like mindset when they go into that is like, here are my preferences, but at the end of the day, like, I want to be healthy and safe, and I want my baby to be healthy and safe. Anyway, I just think Morgan wasn't necessarily being super realistic with her expectations for a lot of this, because at one point she and Paul were talking about how they would like watch movies where somebody was giving birth, and apparently Morgan said to him, like, you know that they over dramatize these things. That's not how birth is. Like, that's not how it has to be. They're just doing it because they're acting. And so Paul got really concerned at one point because he was expecting Morgan to be like calm and peaceful, just like having this great experience laboring. And she was like grunting and getting loud and like looking very, very much in pain because she was having an unmedicated birth. And so, of course, like, this is a very intense thing, but he wasn't expecting her to react like that because she told him that it wasn't going to be like that. And so she kind of like roasts him a little bit for being so concerned about her when he shared, like, when he gives his interjections of like how he was feeling while Morgan was in birth. It's very evident that he was incredibly concerned by her reactions. Now, Morgan's reactions were fine. She was safe. Nothing was wrong. Morgan had apparently gotten the idea from social media that unmedicated vaginal births were just like this smooth experience where everybody looks so peaceful and at ease and it's quiet and it's calm, and like that's what she was expecting. And so that's the expectation that she gave Paul. And so when Paul sees her in pain, when he sees her making certain faces, when he hears her getting loud, when he sees some blood, like, he is understandably concerned. One, because Morgan told him, like, people don't act like that when they're in labor. They're just being dramatic because they're actors. And two, because of what their experience was the first time she had a baby. Genuinely, I felt kind of bad for Paul because he was very clearly, like, concerned about his wife and was very heavily affected by what he saw during Morgan's first birth. And so he was just like concerned, asking questions, being like, is she okay? Like, that's a lot of blood, right? Like, is she gonna be all right? And Morgan was kind of like ribbing him for that and being like, no, it was normal. They said I did great. They said everything was fine. I don't know why you didn't do more research on what to expect. And it's just like, well, yes, Paul could have done more research, but like, this is also coming from the person who didn't fill out all of her registration paperwork when she knew she was planning to give birth in a hospital and her baby came on his due date. And you were also the one who gave him that expectation that, like, it doesn't have to be like that. People don't scream like that when they're in labor.
Hey, don't get me wrong. They were encouraging, but then it seemed like it got very intense of like, we got to get this baby out.
Okay, no, it wasn't, but it got more intense in the sense that he was partially out of me, and they were like, keep pushing, get him all the way out.
All right.
But literally, Paul was like, she lost a ton of blood. Is she gonna need a blood transfusion? Is she okay?
Release
was
the tapes.
Was this a traumatic birth? And literally, all the nurses were like, what? No, she did awesome. Like, this was great. Like,
I agree. You did awesome.
She didn't, sure, her blood's fine. She doesn't need a transfusion or anything. And blah, blah, blah. Clearly, Paul just wasn't prepared for.
Why was I not prepared for this?
I don't know, babe. Why weren't you? That's my question.
I don't know.
Anywho, so that's the birth of baby Judah. Jeez, oh Pete. Yeah, I should have done the birth story honestly on my own because Paul interrupted me. Really, just hurt hurt.
Oh, I
story.
apologize. My apologies, everybody. I'm sorry that I quelched the momentum.
You did.
But no, it's very good. Well, praise the Lord. It was amazing. It was amazing.
It really was a redemptive birth story.
Anyway, that was like the first 35 minutes of the video. I think maybe Paul and Morgan could have rehearsed what they were going to say prior to that, because it did not seem like they were on the same page with a lot of things. Maybe they hadn't talked about it, like what each of their experiences felt like from their own perspectives prior to getting on that live stream, because it seemed like they each perceived the situation, like Morgan's birth experience, very differently. Anyway, they move on to talking about how difficult the transition from one child to two has been. They had gotten, I guess, a lot of people telling them, like, it's so much easier going from 1 to 2 than it was going from 0 to 1. Like, this experience is going to be so much different. It's so much easier doing this. But that was not their experience. They had an easier time going from 0 to 1 than they have going from 1 to 2. And it's been a tough past few weeks. Then they get a super chat from somebody who asks Paul if he ever feels pressured to get a real job as the patriarch / leader of the home. And he's like, I'm glad you asked about that, because this is actually something that we want to talk about. And he says content creation is a real job, and that the only people who would say that it's not are the haters. And Morgan says that content creation requires more effort than most 9-to-5 real jobs. And to that, I would like to ask, has Morgan ever had a job outside of content creation? Because here's the thing. I agree that content creation is a real job. Like, that is a legitimate income source and a legitimate thing to do with your time. But the way that Paul and Morgan do content creation, the way that they do YouTube, that does not require more effort than a 9-to-5 does. Content creation can require as much effort as more traditional jobs, but Paul and Morgan, they're not reinventing the wheel here. And that's not an insult, because neither am I. But like, they're not posting super in-depth, like highly researched videos. They're not posting every single day. They're not doing like really creative out of the box things that require a ton of editing or require like a big production team. That most of their content, typically, aside from their recent 24 Hours with series, is live streams. It's just live streaming. It's live streaming and talking about stuff that's going on in the world. Yeah, you gotta look into it. You gotta like educate yourself on the topic that you're gonna talk about. You gotta look for topics. You gotta like find stuff, get ready to do the show. But they were doing maybe 1 a week, 1 to 2 a week. I don't know. I don't watch all of their content, but I know for dang sure Paul and Morgan were not posting every single day. They were doing an hour or 2 of live streaming a week. And they have a Patreon. And just looking at what they offer on their Patreon, their highest tier is $24. You get patron recognition at the end of every video. We will have a credits reel, and your first name with your last initial will be on screen. Exclusive monthly Patreon Zoom call. That's pretty self-explanatory. Patron get-togethers. Throughout the year, we try to create some hangouts for any patrons who are able to join. We cannot wait to hang out with you. We've already had several get-togethers, and they are some of our favorite memories. No promise on how frequent that'll be. It's just like, hey, we try to do this, so maybe you'll get it. Oh my god, that's not even the most expensive one. Okay, so that was the $24 tier, which is called Wild Support. And then the last perk on that one is exclusive Patreon group chat. Join our HHBF family and get connected with other like-minded people. Our hope is that in this space, not only do you cultivate your relationship with God, but also that you find this community to be a place where you will always feel welcome, encouraged, challenged, and edified. So it's not even like Paul and Morgan saying they're going to chat with you. It's just like you get a group chat with other people who subscribe. The $50 tier has the exact same perks, like the exact same benefits. It's just called the Family Patron. And then Their $100 tier is called the Pillar of Faith. That's an offensive name. The Pillar of Faith tier, and you will receive everything in the prior tier plus one-on-one Zoom. Want to just chat with Paul and Morgan one-on-one? As a thank you for your generosity, twice a year we will be doing 15-minute one-on-one Zooms with you. Twice a year. Twice a year. You get 15 minutes of their time. For $100 a month. Anyway, their lowest tier is $5, and just as like a breakdown, they have 472 total members and then 187 paid members. I'm not entirely sure what's included if you join the patron at the free level, but that's not exactly the point. The point is, none of that sounds like it requires more effort than a more traditional job. None of that sounds like it requires more effort than somebody who is getting up every day and working a serving job, working in daycare, working as a nurse, working a corporate job 40 hours a week. Like, none of that sounds like it requires more effort than other jobs, right? Let's not even say like traditional jobs. That does not sound like it requires more effort than most other income making opportunities in general. Anyway, moving on. Paul does say that he has been fortunate to do a little bit of work outside of this as well, but he's like pretty eager to close up this part of the conversation and move on. And by like outside of this, he means outside of content creation. I don't know if he means before they really like kind of found their stride on YouTube or before they had like a pretty decent following, or if he means that like while they've been doing YouTube apparently full time, he has also done outside work. I would be very interested to know what he meant by that, but he doesn't give us any details. Anyway, they move on to the bittersweet part of this as implied in their title, and they first say that they are going to be pumping the brakes on their 24 Hours With series, but that they are always open-handed to God and where he wants to take them, and they appreciate the support that everybody's given, but like they're basically done with it. And then they tease that they have a big announcement. And what is this announcement? Well, they talk about how they've been doing YouTube for 8 years and how it's a lot of pressure and it's really intense. And Morgan does point out that like Paul has carried the weight of that, like the intensity and the pressure. And Morgan has wanted to quit many times, but Paul has never felt that way before. So they talk about how they took their break from content creation for Judah's birth and they had a lot of time off. Also an incredibly like privileged thing to be able to do. A lot of people like they both took that time off, and I think that's great. Like, I'm not trying to say anything negative about them both being able to take that time. I think that is awesome that they were able to do that, but like a lot of people with more traditional jobs are not able to do that. They don't have that luxury. And so anyway, back to what they were talking about. A couple weeks into their break, they had a conversation where they were basically like, we don't know if we want to do this anymore. They weren't sure where their voices belong on YouTube and how it's sometimes difficult to keep up with hot topics to talk about on the channel. So they have this conversation, they're chatting about it. What do they want to do? What do they want their future to look like? And they both decide that they're going to quit YouTube. They made that decision. They felt like just this big weight get lifted off of them. It was so peaceful. They were feeling good about that decision for a few days. And then they changed their minds and they're not going to quit YouTube. Instead of quitting, guys, they're going to switch to family vlogging. Morgan does make sure to point out that she knows that there are tons of differing opinions on family vlogs and the way people perceive them and feel about them, but she doesn't go into like any details about that or like address any potential concerns she thinks that people might have, other than them saying like, don't worry, we're doing family vlogs, but we're not going to make our lives look perfect. They're not going to be cookie cutter. We're going to like go into like deep real life stuff. It's not just going to be surface level. Then they move on to talking about how Paul has just been super into pickleball lately, how he's been putting a ton of effort into it and a lot of time into it, and he's been like logging his hours at the pickleball court. And one day Morgan like had a conversation with him about how much pickleball he was playing, and the result of that conversation was that they decided that Paul is gonna try to go pro in pickleball. And you know what? I think that it is admirable to find new hobbies in your 30s. I don't think it's ever too late to try and pursue a dream. I guess I just don't know if, like, 2 months postpartum, when my wife has just given birth to, like, our second kid and she's really struggling, is the time that I would choose to lean into that new passion and that new dream. If you keep up with Paul and Morgan on Instagram, the differences in their like daily stories is pretty stark. Morgan is more often than not posting about how difficult things are and how tough of a time she's having, and like how it, you know, when she had Luca, she could just hand him off if she needed a break. She could hand him off to Paul and like she could have her time, but now that she has two, she can't do that. Which I would say you can. I mean, that's what your husband is supposed to be there for. Like, you're taking care of two of them, two children. That's a lot. In the newborn phase, oh my gosh. Like, you're supposed to have a teammate. He's supposed to be your partner. Like, if you can handle two kids, he can handle two kids. Here you go. Mommy needs a break. But I know that that's not realistic for a lot of people, and like there's a lot of fear around that for some people. Some people have partners who are like not safe to do that with because they will ignore the baby. I honestly don't think Paul would do that. I don't know him. I don't think he would like intentionally neglect a child if Morgan was like, here's both of them, I need a break. But maybe she feels guilty about it. Maybe I don't know, maybe she's having her own anxiety about leaving the two of them with him. I have no idea. But she talks about how like she doesn't have breaks and it's been very rough, and like Judah's very clingy and it's hard to get him to nap, and it's just been a rough time for her. And then Paul's out at the pickleball court every day. Like, even if Morgan's fine with it, even if Morgan's like, yes, Paul, go, pursue your dreams, I want you to be able to go pro in pickleball, the optics of it are not good. And like, if social media and content creation is your profession, like if this is your career, you should care about the optics of it and adjust accordingly, because they're not good. Anyway, the timing of Paul starting this journey is just like very convenient. It's perfect timing for them. And they're going to be vlogging a lot of this journey to Paul becoming pro in pickleball. And they'll have great content because they're going to be doing a lot of traveling to tournaments in a van together. So anyway, they share this news with the audience, and then in looking at the comments from the live stream, there's a lot of mixed reactions. A lot of people who are definitely concerned about the potential of them exploiting their children, the safety aspect of it, telling people like, or telling Paul and Morgan, you never know what can be done with AI. Like, I would just be really careful how much of your kids you're putting out there, because you never know what people are going to do with that. And while these people are making like valid points, you know, showing genuine concern for the safety of their children, Morgan tells everyone to, quote, calm it the poop down, end quote, because these will be life vlogs and kids are just a part of their life. Now, I don't know if at this point they're backtracking because of the concerns that are being expressed, or if Morgan just presented it incorrectly the first time, but like, they clarify that the vlogs are mostly just going to be about Paul and Morgan and like their life and what they want to talk about. But because they're parents, the kids are going to be in the background, or like Paul expects, you know, I just thought it was going to be us, but like maybe Judah pops in and is like, Mom, can I have this? Mom, can you help me with that? And like, it's just kind of in the background. He's not the main point of it. And Morgan says like, well, they're my kids. Like, they're going to be in there. You're going to see clips of me playing with my children because that's part of my life. But like, they're not going to be the main focus of the vlogs, and we would never put pressure on our kids to be on camera or to perform for vlogs. She also says that the kids will be included in the vlogs, again, because that's part of Paul and Morgan's life, is having kids, but that if they don't want to be in the videos, then they won't be in the videos, which isn't exactly something that you can apply to a newborn child. Your newborn doesn't have a choice on whether or not he wants, quote unquote, wants to be in a video. Something that Morgan also says is that she doesn't, quote, totally agree with this whole your kids are too young to consent to being online, end quote, because she never consented to her parents filming ridiculous videos of her and sharing them with the family, and she's fine. So, yeah, those aren't different situations and scenarios at all, Morgan. Look, you're the parent. You are the adult. You are the person who is responsible for making healthy and safe decisions for your child and providing consent for them in situations where it is appropriate to do so. I'm not somebody who thinks that like you should never post videos of your kid online, but I do think that you should consider what you're posting and who you're posting it to. If you're somebody who like only uses Instagram to keep up with people that you know in real life, and you're posting about your kid, like you're posting them at you know, you guys go to a Cardinals game together and you take a family photo and you put it on your stories. That makes sense to me. You are keeping up with people that you know in real life, your friends, your family, whatever. The people who follow you are the ones who actually know you in real life. They probably know what your kids look like. You know, it makes sense to me that you would post photos of your child and not be overly concerned about who might be seeing them because your internet presence is limited to people that you know. I don't think that it's inherently wrong to show photos of your child online, but I think there need to be levels of discretion. If you're somebody who does content creation or you're trying to get a following, like you're posting because you want people who don't know you in real life to find your content, to find your page and to follow it and engage with your content, you have a responsibility to think about the impact of putting your child on that page. And that doesn't mean that you never post their face or that you need to like keep them hidden, not show any like defining details of what they look like, not talk about some of the things that they do or like share funny stories about them. It's just that you need to consider what you feel comfortable with strangers having access to. How comfortable are you with a stranger having access to certain information about your child? How comfortable would you be with somebody who you do not know? You've never met them, you don't know their real name, you don't know what they look like, you don't know anything about this person. Are you comfortable with the information that you're putting out about your child? Are you comfortable with them having whatever information it is that you choose to put onto the internet about your child? As somebody who creates content and like really actually enjoys social media and engaging in that, I understand that you don't think you're doing anything negative by like sharing your kid. You think my kid is just the cutest thing possible. I love them so much. They did this funny thing. They did this cute thing. They did this sweet thing. Look how adorable they look. Listen to this funny story about them. Like you want to share your kid because you love them and because you think they're so cute and you want to talk about them or you want to share photos of them and you want other people to see how adorable you think they are. Like I get that. But as a parent, it is your job to be responsible for them and to make decisions that are in the best interest of their safety. And so the way that they're describing it of like, we're not going to be family vlogging in the traditional sense, which is a completely different conversation if you are family vlogging because you're making your kids the main selling point of that content. Like that is 100% exploitative to have a family vlog where you rely on your kids for your income. You rely on people wanting to see them and wanting to hear about them. And like, you know, we've had multiple conversations about that. But like even the way that Paul and Morgan are describing it is like, it's going to be about us, but our kids are going to be in the background. That's still something that should have layers of discretion to it. People get to parent their kids how they want. They get to choose what is shared about their own children, and they have every right to make those decisions. But I just don't think that it's reasonable for Morgan to be like, calm down, and like upset that people are expressing genuine concern about her saying that they are switching over to family vlogging. Anyway, they go on to say that they might pop on every now and then to do live streams with their audience, and that we can expect to see this first vlog of theirs posted soon, but that they're going to have fun with this new pivot and they will be updating their Patreon rules soon. And that's pretty much it. So there were definitely some mixed opinions and mixed reactions from Paul and Morgan's audience, not only regarding the content change, but also the way that Paul apparently spoke during the birth story. And I get it, like he did interrupt her and was like, hey, like you're giving a lot of details. Do people want to hear about this? And that was rude. Like, yes, it's Morgan's birth story. People want to hear the details, but to be honest, I did not think that the things he said outside of that were that strange. I felt like I understood where Paul was coming from with a lot of the things that he said, and I didn't feel like he was downplaying or insulting Morgan in the things that he said, but Paul did add a pinned comment to the comment section, and this is what it says. Correction. Hey guys, a couple things. First, I, Paul, wish I would have made it more clear in this live how amazing Morgan did in her delivery. She was a total champ and crushed it. My mind was all over the place and I missed an opportunity to give big props to my wife. This next part I think was necessary to add though. He said, also, I should have stressed how grateful I am for the way Morgan has been pouring out for Luca and Judah and our family the last 2 months. It's been a lot. She's been amazing. Yeah, Paul, it has been a lot. Hope you're helping out with that. Finally, he says, lastly, I think we misspoke to call our new content family vlogs. The kids may make appearances here and there, but the focus will be much more on Morgan and I's lives and pursuits. Just wanted to clear that up. Anyhow, it was great being back with y'all. We love you guys and so appreciate your love and support on where we've been and this next chapter. Red heart emoji. Anyway, that's all I've got for now. That was their live stream. Those were my opinions on it. I don't really have anything else to add. I am very interested to hear any and all of your thoughts about this, how you feel about this content pivot, what you think that's going to end up looking like for them. I guess I do have another thought that I didn't share. I don't know how successful this is going to be. Morgan did used to do vlogs on a separate vlogging channel, but I think it's been quite a while since she's posted anything over there. And I do think that people did tend to enjoy what she put out on that channel. So maybe this will be a positive shift for them. Maybe this will be a good thing. I don't know. Time will tell. Let me know any thoughts and or predictions that you have about this content pivot and how you think it's going to go for them. You can leave those thoughts in the comment section down below if you're watching this on YouTube, or in the comment section for this episode if you're listening to the podcast on Spotify. While you are doing that, if you would consider liking this video or subscribing to my channel or leaving the podcast a rating or a review, that would be incredible. If you've done any of those things already, thank you so much. I am so appreciative of you. And I love being able to just sit here, hang out with you, and talk about whatever. Thank you so much for watching or listening. Please be kind to people, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.